Make that 6 straight losses for the Milwaukee Bucks after dropping another close one to the Cavaliers. Without Khris and without Giannis, the Bucks lose 116-114 to the Cavaliers in Cleveland. Is there anything to build on from this loss? And should there be concern levels with some of the new Bucks additions? We're going to discuss all of that and more on the other side of the intro.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis, and you can catch me weekly on the Technical Foul Podcast as well as the Pack a Day Podcast. Joining me is Frank Madden, founder of BrewHoop.com and longtime voice of the pod. We appreciate you for tuning in, and we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. In addition to the podcast form, we're also in newsletter form, introducing that Locked On Bucks daily newsletter, your one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Bucks newsletter. Today's episode is also sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Now, Frank, in this game, Giannis was questionable yesterday. Turned out that he was not going to play. Bobby Portis was starting in his place. And with how this game started, I thought this was going to be another repeat of last year's Cavs-Bucks game when Giannis was a late scratch in that one, and the Bucks lost by like 40 points. Once the Bucks got down like 19 in this game, I was like, I see how this one is going. But the Bucks hung around. They had a big third quarter, kept it close in the fourth. I thought they could steal it, but ultimately they lose by 2, dropping to a 1-6 record on the season. Last in the East. What can the Bucks build off from this performance, if anything, at this point in this early season?
I mean, the reality is at this point, like the Bucks suck until further notice is sort of my mindset. And there's obviously reasons for that, such as obviously Khris Middleton's absence doesn't help. And in this game, obviously finding out, an hour before tip off that Giannis isn't going to play, your expectations are obviously very low. And I also similarly thought, as you mentioned, back to the game, which middle of last year was eventually cited as one of the games that really got Adrian Griffin fired. And Giannis also didn't play in that game, but I remember correctly, Dame played, if I remember correctly, and Khris. I know Khris had a terrible game in that one. And, it just felt like they didn't have shots going and they just kind of quit. And that really was what it felt like. And they're in such a tenuous spot right now, right? I think we've talked about it. You come into a regular season. I mean, whatever. We spent all summer trying to figure out how good teams are going to be, blah, blah, blah. But we don't really know until we see teams play actual games. And for whatever baseline you expected of Milwaukee Bucks, and even accounting for, Khris Middleton's absence, blah, 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 they've been obviously much worse than probably any of us expected, right?
Yep.
So, I've been mentally, I'm just thinking of them as a patient in a rehab facility that broke their back and are relearning to walk at this point. The loss on Saturday, obviously it was heartbreaking, gutting if you're a fan, right? Thinking you may have won that game in dramatic fashion and then to have it kind of stripped away at the last moment. But as I sort of thought about it, I thought, man, they're down so bad right now that I bet the coaching staff is feeling like, oh man, at least they competed.
Yeah, because we've seen some games earlier where they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, that's how bad things have been here in the first couple weeks. The Chicago game, the Brooklyn game, the Memphis game in particular. The Memphis game, Memphis didn't shoot threes at all in that game. There was no illusion why they lost that game. They got their asses kicked. It was not a bad luck game. That was you got run off the floor game. So, I mean, you hope that that's the low point of this season is that loss in Memphis. they've had plenty of bad losses in Memphis, and they've had some bad losses in Cleveland, as we mentioned. So look, I think if any good effort, I think tonight was going to be encouraging. I think the fact that they were in danger of having this game get completely out of control at multiple points, makes you feel like, okay, like, you know, you do have to settle for a moral victory at some point.
Mhm.
Um, but that's just a really tough place to be because you're literally slipping only, you got a moral victory tonight and you literally fell deeper into last place in your conference, So, um, so I think, but I think the bright side is, I think what you saw from AJ Green and Andre
Yes, sir.
Jackson Jr. in particular, and I think Dame has a more complicated more complicated legacy from this game because he on the one hand hit tons of shots, 36 points on 22 shots. You knew everything was going to go through him. He was bearing a
Mhm.
huge burden, but his decision making, turnovers, I jokingly called it his Jordan Love game on Twitter because it was like great play or pick six, horrendous turnover. It was like there was
Mhm.
nothing in between. And so, um, yeah, I mean, again, I think end of the day, they like on Saturday shot the ball really well in aggregate, and unfortunately, it wasn't good enough because Cleveland kind of matched them. And so, I've been just praying for a double outlier shooting game where just something breaks their way, and the other team just you hope the other team at some point just misses every shot.
Mhm.
Well, they did for long stretches. Cleveland missed shots for quite a long time, and it like allowed the Bucks to get back in it. And there was definitely some positives to take from that. But I think if we're being honest, like they pissed this game away as well. Like, they were up 8 in the fourth quarter. They had multiple. They were leading, in the final. I think in the final 2 minutes, right when Dame hit that three.
Yep.
And again, like they just aren't a team that can finish possessions on and make kind of the clutch plays that you need to on both sides right now. And again, there's a lot of luck baked into that too. But end of the day, you're 1-6, and again, like until they prove that they can win games at a win a
Yeah,
game.
just
How
in
about
that
that?
sentence there.
Like let's prove that you can win a game first. Then we can worry about winning multiple games. Then we can worry about like beginning to think of this team as you know, relevant at all in the East playoff picture because right now you're dead last and you're still trying to figure out how to win a basketball game. So positives to be had, but there's they can just unfortunately in the standings just continue to dig deeper into the hole that they're gonna have to overcome.
Yeah, and it's still early and everything like that, but you're still digging yourself into quite a hole that you need to climb out of. You're going to be at this point expecting or needing some luck from some other teams and some upsets to happen along the way. Well, at this point, they need everyone to lose for them to try to catch up. But I mean, in this game in particular, like as you mentioned, they didn't give up, which shows you something about the character of this team. Like they were down as much as 19 in this game. They went into halftime down 13, responded with a 31-16 third quarter, head into the fourth quarter up by 2. And they started the fourth quarter off with an interesting lineup there where it was
Ryan
Rollins,
Ra Point Pat
Ajax,
Connaughton.
Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, and AJ Green. I was like, this is an interesting group to go with. But again, they were kind of forced hand to try something out at this point. And that group was able to push the Bucks lead up 5 more points heading into the time when Dame checks back in with Brooke. And then the Bucks offense just completely stalled for a couple of minutes there, allowing the Cavaliers to go on a 10-0 run. And again, it was just some things within that I saw where I'm like, you're almost there, but like the decision making or the situational awareness in certain situations, I'm just not feeling it. So I want to talk a bit more about that particular point in the game, as well as give some love to AJ Green and Andre Jackson Jr., two guys who I think with this game have earned more consistent playing time going forward. So let's talk a bit more about that on the other side of the break. Listen up. If you are a renter, Have you ever felt like you're just stuck in this loop of rent payments? You're just watching your money vanish into thin air over and over and over, month after month. Well, it's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. And that's where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. So every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. You can put your points toward a flight or a hotel stay. There's over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. So pay rent hassle free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. So earn points by paying rent right now when you go to built.com/lockedonnba. That's join built, joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Join built.com/lockedonnba to start earning points with your rent payments today. There's also nothing like catching a game live, and the NBA season is rolling. College basketball is starting back up. Game Time is the place for you to go for all your ticketing needs. Game Time isn't just a place to go for sporting events. They got you covered for all events. So you got a show or a concert you're interested in, they should have you covered for that as well. Game Time also has a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams, musicians, artists play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my favorite Game Time features is being able to see a view from my actual seat before I get my ticket. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Frank, I mentioned just that running the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, and the offense stalling. Here's the thing. Bobby Portis, he had to start in this game. There's no Giannis, and we've had conversations about Bobby Portis's play. A little bit of a mixed bag at times, but he was out there trying to do what he could on the glass, finished the game with 21 points, 18 boards. But in the fourth quarter in particular, during that run where the Cavaliers started running again, I don't completely hate Bobby Portis post-ups, but situational awareness matters. Like, there was a possession there in the fourth where Okoro was on AJ Green, which I was like, cool, because Okoro had been hounding and hassling Dame throughout the day. You got Spider on Dame, and then you have Mobley on Bobby Portis. They get it to Bobby in the post. Dame's encouraging him, like, go ahead, Bobby, work. And it's like, in that situation, I do not like that. Like, why are we not attacking the fact that Donovan Mitchell is trying to hold Damian Lillard? Like, situational awareness has to be better for the team. But all in all, outside of that piece of it, the piece that I want to highlight as a positive, that AJ Green, the Ajax minutes. I mean, when AJ comes in the game and he starts 3 of 3 from 3, you feel like it's probably going to be a good game for him. And he tied his career high with 7 3-point makes in this game, 21 points, all threes. Played some good defense as well. Andre, we've talked about, he had a game, Frank, wasn't fouling. He got to be in the game, not a foul in sight for Andre in this one. Put in some good minutes. So, if anything, I just need more AJ Green and more Andre Jackson somehow, some way, some shape, some form going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it came at the expense. Interestingly, DeLon Wright only plays 4 minutes, didn't
Yeah,
play at
that
all
was
in the
strange.
second half. Which, this is the problem with, to me, it's kind of downstream of Dame, right? Is when you have Dame, that you need defensive depth at the point of attack, backup guards that can defend. So you sign reasonably DeLon Wright because, hey, he can play with Dame or behind him, and then you lean on Giannis and Khris to be the playmakers of the second unit when he's out there with them. Well, there's no Khris, there's no Giannis, and clearly they just thought, yeah, I mean, we need more firepower,
Mhm.
and especially with the way AJ in particular was shooting the ball, it ended up being, I think, a pretty easy choice to certainly not play him of that. But the interesting piece, it wasn't like just AJ Green. Ryan Rollins played fourth quarter
Yeah,
minutes today, which was probably
solid
the most
minutes.
left field of all the decisions. And again, like, I mean, what did we see from? Did he take like one shot? I think it was like a putback on an offensive rebound,
Mhm.
which is a very rare sight for the Bucks to see. Um, I guess he was fine defensively. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of that. Like those Ryan Rollins minutes. Like I've thought he gave them some, nice spells in summer league, and he can play to an extent. He's pretty versatile. Um, but like I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, like Ryan Rollins needs to take the Lon Wright's minutes. Like I don't really have an opinion about Ryan Rollins, but I agree with you. I think we've seen it going back to last year with Ajax. As critical as I am of him offensively, there's just an energy level about him defensively and on the offensive glass to an extent too. But there's just it's like one of my favorite movies, Pulp Fiction. I don't know how familiar. Well, you're nodding,
It's a
so
classic. It's a classic.
you're at least somewhat familiar. And the scene when Uma Thurman ODs and is like laying on the ground about to die. That is the Bucks' season, of late, or at least their defense. And
Mhm.
she gets hit with the adrenaline needle. That is Andre Jackson Jr., right? Unfortunately, it doesn't carry over to dunking the ball when he's around the basket, but
At least he
um,
attempted it though from the
he
dunker spot.
attempted
I was like,
one.
"There
He
you
attempted
go."
one. Yeah, good for him for that. He also had one where he was running. Did you see that one in the first half along the baseline? He like caught it, was like going up, and literally it's just like there was like a guy standing there who didn't look like he wanted any part of it, and he just
Yeah,
turns around and whips a pass. It's just like, my God, Andre, like just for the love
go
of
up with
God, like Giannis and Dame need to like put like a bounty like out there of like Andre, $10,000 anytime you dunk the ball, period. But especially if you dribble and then dunk the ball,
it.
like
Mhm.
$100,000, Andre. Like I don't know if you're going to spend any
Some
money on that
something.
this year. You got to put some incentives out there for the dude. Um, Giannis and Dame, go ahead and throw some some incentives to Andre. Um, but yeah, just the energy level, and again, like is he a lockdown guy per se? No, but I mean, he moves his feet really well. He's really good
Mhm.
laterally. He's still figuring out how to get over screens, but he's better than
A lot of
basically
guys.
anybody else the Bucks have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is the Marjan problem. Like I mean, it's funny. Like I won't go into Marjan much, but like I don't really think like the problem really has been Marjan the offense. I think the fact is that he's just like does not take advantage
Yep.
and do anything really defensively. Can't get over a screen to save his life. Doesn't really think the game defensively. Doesn't make plays. And then you watch Andre and you're just like, oh, if we could just take like Marjan's like half decent offensive game, like passable offensive game and meld that with Andre's energy and defense,
Mhm.
like, man, you'd
Yeah.
have a really nice rotation player. But maybe the Bucks have a really nice rotation player, even with Andre's limitations. We saw him hit a couple threes tonight. He kind of kept shooting, and the results tailed off from there. But yeah, I just thought his energy just always seems to kind of amp things up, and I don't know, just seeing like any Bucks player other than Giannis who can like jump up in the air and like make the other team feel like there's a physical presence that that they need to worry about. I mean, Brooke is that in the way, but not from an athleticism standpoint. That was great to see. And then obviously AJ in completely different way, just coming in early and hitting threes when the Bucks just were trying to claw back into the game.
Mhm.
I thought was critical. And obviously he's a guy that Doc has played above all the other young guys. So it's not shocking to see AJ get some run, but it's obviously been, let's just say, more, rare than we probably want early in the season, especially with the way the team has struggled offensively. Like the
Yeah.
lack of AJ Green, I think, has been pretty notable. So um it was great to see obviously him continue. He hits the buzzer beater, like the least
The
relevant
heat. Yeah.
50-foot heave at the end of the game. But Gary Trent, two straight like terrible games, like just zero confidence right now. Like when he drives to the basket and shoots one of these floaters, like now he's definitely missing that, even though it's a short shot. He's just in a bad spot. I think he's been under 40% every game since opening night when he shot it pretty
Mhm.
well. So he's just in a funk, and it's fine. Keep starting him. Like we know he can play. But I think as far as your bench mix, I think AJ Green is showing like for a team that struggled to get up 3-point shots and make 3-point shots really until like last game, you
Mhm.
need this guy. Like he stretches the floor. He's a dynamic shooter. And as you also said, like, he can defend well enough that I don't think that's an excuse for a Bucks team that it's not like you're, benching 87 Michael Jordan or something like that defensively to put AJ Green on the floor, right? You're not taking a lockdown defender off the floor to put
Right.
him in there. So I think AJ's, I think that's probably the most important things we saw tonight is those guys just making a case that, like, Doc, you got to play these guys because for all
Mhm.
the disastrousness that we've seen on the from the Bucks bench, these guys actually like can play. And again, like AJ's not going to shoot 7 or 9 from three every game,
Right.
but are you surprised that he went 7 for 9 from three? I'm not.
No.
And did anything about Andre's game like surprise you? No, like they can do this kind of thing um, most nights, and I think especially given the kind of other issues the Bucks have, I just really think they need it. So again, who knows if Chris Middleton ever decides to play basketball again? But especially, I think AJ in particular, especially with Chris not playing, you really need just some
Need it.
offensive spark. And so I think it was really important that he starts to kind of see some light of day. So Ryan Rollins, whatever. Like I'm willing to give DeLon Wright a longer rope, especially as the Bucks get healthy. But
Mhm.
yeah, figure out a way to get AJ and Andre more consistent minutes. And Pat Connaughton actually played pretty well tonight, but
He
like
did.
I'm totally fine. I'm totally happy giving AJ Pat's minutes, which again I think is going to be hard for Doc to do because he's again like he's trying to get those vets confidence, blah blah blah. And
He's
kudos
given
to
him
Pat,
opportunity.
5 assists tonight, no turnovers, hit a few shots, moved without the ball. So I think this was like a good Pat game actually. But when you're healthy, you're gonna have to make some decisions. You're not gonna play
Mhm.
12 guys. So we'll see. But yeah, to me, as you pointed out, like that's to me like the major positive obviously is those guys hopefully making it hard for Doc to not play them next time out. And hopefully
That's
they keep it going, right? Like you just hope they don't like regress or, you know, Andre have like 4 fouls in 6 minutes or something like
right.
that.
Want to see them stack the good performances
Yeah.
against Utah on Thursday as well going forward. But your Gary Trent Jr. point was an interesting one. I want to talk a bit more about his performance and just also the other Bucks free agent additions and just how they've been looking early on. If you have any concerns about their playing time or how they've been playing or utilized so far, plus a little look ahead at what the Bucks have coming up to see if we can see any possible way in the future for them to kind of climb out of this hole that they've dug themselves into early on this season. So more on that after this. It's the most wonderful time of the year with all of the sports and action. So make sure that you get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and you will get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, you can view the play by play live, and so much more on the same page where you're actually placing your bets. So visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com. You'll get started again with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make sure that you make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. HIMS is changing men's health care by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. And let's keep it a buck. Life can get really busy, but that shouldn't stop you from getting busy. Like you don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. So through HIMS, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside of your door. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits or uncomfortable ad reads. You just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option for you. If prescribed, your medication will ship directly to you in discreet packaging for free. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/locked on. That's HIMS.com/locked on for your personal ED treatment options. HIMS.com/locked on. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, those Bucks free agent additions: Gary Trent Jr., Torian Prince, DeLon Wright. We mentioned DeLon Wright only played 4 minutes today. Gary Trent Jr. has been a bit of a mixed bag over the last few games, struggling with his shot, as you mentioned, been a mixed bag defensively. And it seemed like in this game in particular, they were really looking to try to get Gary Trent Jr. more shots off the dribble, just outside of just only catch and shoot opportunities. Part of that, I think, again, no Giannis, you need another ball handler, someone to try to create. So that was something interesting to me. And then you had Torian Prince, who only had the 1 3-pointer. I think that was his only shot of the game. Yeah, the 1 3 that he had, 3 assists, only played 15 minutes tonight. Gary Trent Jr. played 21 minutes tonight. And we didn't see them at all in the fourth quarter. Both Prince and Trent checked out with 6:22 left in the third, and we did not see them for the rest of the game. Do you have any early concerns about the Bucks free agent additions or how they're being used, or are you just kind of like early growing pains? They're kind of playing out of position, some of them, given the fact that there's no Khris, there was no Giannis tonight. So just kind of keep an eye on it. How are you feeling about them?
I mean, I think it's just I would say, I mean, I fully expect Gary Trent's going to shoot the ball better than I mean, he's not going to shoot 33% or whatever he's shooting on the season, right? Like we know he's
Mhm.
a shot maker, and you just hope that he can get out of that funk sooner rather than later, because he is going to keep playing. I mean, he's not a guy that's going
Right.
to suddenly like get benched or be out of the lineup. Like I think they're going to keep playing him, so you kind of need him to figure stuff out. Now, I'm glad that Doc just basically said like, yeah, you're not playing in the fourth quarter because you're not playing well. So go with the guys that got you there. And I think with Prince, again, like I think for the most part, I think his numbers are shooting numbers. I think are generally, except for maybe that one bad game, like he's
They've been
generally
really
been
good.
pretty good. Now maybe it feels like it's all been downhill since that first game in Philly where he made everything. But with him, it's more about just the role expansion and him being a starter when Khris is out, and just underscoring that you really would rather have Khris Middleton as your starting small forward. Because yeah, I
Mhm.
mean Torian's he's just a limited guy, right? I mean, I think like with Pat Connaughton, like it's the not doing anything problem. Like Pat's just sort of at the point where you just look at him out there, and not tonight, but there's just a lot of games where it just seems like he's getting cardio, right? Like
Right.
doesn't get shots up, doesn't make plays, doesn't rebound at a high enough level anymore. He's just kind of out there, taking up
Mhm.
space. And I think with Torian, there's also that risk because he's not a guy he's not like dynamic as a passer, playmaker, can rebound his position at times. And I think, and we've talked about this. I think defensively, I think Torian's just a guy. If he has to defend wings, especially smaller wings, I just don't think he's quick enough, like
Yeah.
laterally. I think he gets exposed pretty quickly, and I think just the way the Bucks have defended overall has not been, it. This is not a good team right now to be able to, to be able to hide poor perimeter defenders. Like Brooke, I think has generally done well. He had 4 steals and 2 blocks tonight. He disrupted a lot. The Cavs, we've seen them really. This was a game I expected Mobley and Jared Allen to really hurt them. And Mobley had that one stretch in the first half, but otherwise, like, really didn't do a whole lot. I think he had about one
Mhm.
shot he made all the entire second half, which is crazy given how much Bobby Portis was defending him. We can talk about Bobby in a minute. Like Bobby had maybe some of like the best defensive playmaking minutes
Yeah,
of
he
his
did.
career, which is crazy to say. I feel like he probably got away with some fouls, but whatever, 3 blocks, you take it. But yeah, I mean, I think just getting back to kind of the Bucks, those signing guys. Um, I mean, I've said it all summer. I feel like the Bucks are short of playmaker,
Mhm.
and Dolan. I think again, talking about guys who just don't do much. I think Dolan does stuff in terms of like hustle plays, deflections, those sorts of things defensively. But I think offensively, DeLon is never looking to shoot the ball, and I think especially like late in shot clock things, like if he catches and he's got like a little bit of an opening,
He won't
it's
take it.
hesitation.
Yeah.
He's gonna pass it, or he's gonna, you know, pump fake and put the ball on the floor and try to dribble someplace. And so that I think is a problem on a team that does need creation, and especially when they're down important, offensive players like Giannis Antetokounmpo. You really notice kind of the hesitation and
Mhm.
indecisiveness that he brings. If he's out there with Giannis, Dame, and Khris, you probably don't notice a whole lot because he's probably not even touching the ball a whole lot. Granted, you want him to, take open threes, but for the most part, it's just less obvious. But obviously, when you don't have kind of the engine of the offense available,
Yeah.
it's just more noticeable. So I think TBD. It's interesting to reflect. This summer I was a little torn because it's like AJ and Andre. I think we all looked at and said like those guys can play, and in an ideal world, they graduate to becoming rotation players. But you looked at the roster, right, and think about the team healthy with the addition of Wright, Prince, and Trent, and it was like, well, where are they going to get minutes
Right.
except when people are injured? And so you didn't want it to come because of Chris Middleton's injury and now Giannis being hurt and Gary Trent like not being able to hit the broadside of a barn. Like that's not why I want to see it. Andre Jackson and AJ Green getting minutes, but like you said, it's about stacking performances, taking opportunities when you get them. Um, like it's not easy being a young guy, but I think this is
Mhm.
what impressed me about AJ is, he's reliably shown that he's adapted from being like a high volume college shooter scorer into a guy that can just come in and microwave it up
Mhm.
and okay, I know I'm getting 3 shots tonight and I'm gonna make 2, and that's really hard. It's really hard to be the guy that makes, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 4,
Yeah.
3 out of 7 when they're all threes or whatever, and not be the guy that goes 0 for 3, 0 for 4 because like, "Oh, I just need to get some rhythm." Well, guess what? You're not getting rhythm. Like
You don't have
you're not getting
time.
that much time. So I think we know that about AJ, and hopefully you can manufacture more time for him, and you can get an extended run. If we were going to have injuries to this team, it would be
Mhm.
preferable if they were to, like more fringe rotation players and not to freaking Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. But you know, here we are, and you're just trying to make the best of it. So Thursday, the two worst teams in basketball, Camille, the
Yep.
toilet bowl, 1-6 Jazz versus 1-6 Bucks. Actually, I don't know. The Jazz are playing tonight, right? I don't know if that includes their.
Yeah.
I think did they already lose tonight? Maybe.
Let's see.
Um,
I know they were up when I last looked. Yeah, they won tonight. They won.
oh, so they're not even the worst team in basketball. Okay, so the Bucks are the worst team in basketball by themselves. Congratulations, we did it,
They're
guys.
both 1-6.
Um,
They're both 1-6.
yeah, they're both 1-6. But I thought Justin had a tweet, which I thought kind of hit the nail on the head as far as where the Bucks are right now. And you just kind of look at the standings, and it's like, as we tweet this, or as we talk, uh, Philly's got Paul George back, but they're playing in Phoenix tonight, so that's not an easy game. They're 1-4. I think the Magic are now 3-5, and Paolo
Mhm.
Banchero's hurt. There's it's not like I mean, the Celtics are running away at the top of the East, sort of as we expected
With the
with the
Cavs.
Cavs. The Cavs are technically the best team in the East right now, but everybody else, right? The Knicks are 3-3, the Magic are 3-4, um, the Pacers are 2-4, and they're in
Mhm.
Dallas tonight, so that obviously is not going to be an easy game to win. And obviously, Philly and the Bucks are at the bottom of the standings, so nobody's like, if top four is the goal, I mean, nobody's running away and hiding yet. But I think Justin made the comment like at some point you gotta, help yourself. You gotta be
Yeah,
you
gotta
gotta
get
be
some
part of the
wins.
process of getting yourself out of, the rut that you've dug for yourself. So the Bucks need to graduate basically from BS moral victories to like
Actual
actual bona
victories.
fide wins that count in the standings. And I mean, if they can't get a win, I mean, this is a weird. This Jazz game is very weird because like I can't really imagine like a weirdly high pressure game against a terrible team at home, um, like this, right? But that's where they are. Like they absolutely need to win this game. If they
Yes,
lose
they
this
do.
game, like WTF are you guys doing, right? And we've seen them lose to mediocre Jazz teams in recent years at home. So all you have to do is have a bad shooting night, and it can happen pretty easily. But you just hope that they can actually come out and just play a complete basketball game, right? Like Doc was saying that they after Saturday's game, they just don't sustain 48 minutes, and we're kind of still waiting for that. So yeah, it's just a challenge, and I think the only other thing I'll say on it for the moment is just the Bucks just have to figure out how to like just. It just feels like the Bucks on the margins just give themselves like so little room for error,
Yeah,
and
the margin's thin.
and when I look at one thing I was looking at, like they've cleaned up the offensive rebounding for Philly was a huge factor on the opening game. They've actually cleaned up their defensive rebounding like pretty significantly. Like tonight, I think they did a great job keeping those bigs off the boards for the most part. But like just if I look at opponent shots from the field versus the Bucks. And again, this isn't everything because obviously free throws are part of the story as well. And the Bucks, especially the first 4 games, had more free throws in each of those games than their opponents. But every game except the Memphis game, when Memphis had a huge free throw advantage, every other game, Bucks take way fewer shots than the other team.
Yeah.
And it makes me think back to the title run, especially in that Hawks series where they really did a great job of minimizing turnovers and getting second chances. And I get it. They're probably not going to be a team that crashes the offensive glass much because they've been so dicey getting back in transition, which again, they've, I think, been a little bit better at the last couple games. But just like the turnover stuff tonight, like getting back to and Dame had most of the turnovers tonight, or half the turnovers basically.
8 out of the 14 for the Bucks tonight.
Yeah, and part of the challenge is like the Bucks just don't force the opponent to make many turnovers. So part of the issue, I mean, it cuts both ways. Like the Bucks do not force many turnovers on the other side, and they turn the ball over. Like they just have these nights where they're pretty wasteful in terms of turning it over. And obviously Giannis can sometimes that's a Giannis problem, him trying to make plays. Tonight it was Dame just pissing the ball away, and just really costly turnovers for a guy that, again, I know that there's a lot of pressure on him in these situations, but it's like, Dame, you've been getting double teamed and blitzed like your entire career. Like, like I think playing for the Trailblazers should have been a pretty good, pretty good, training experiment for knowing how to handle other teams doubling you. And tonight, I mean, the turnovers are so bad, so costly, and again, I mean, some of it is we don't really talk about much, but Dame's not a great passer for an elite point guard. Like that's not what makes him great. Like, he's had some very good passing games, but for the most part, I don't really think he's anything special as a passer. But again, it's one thing to not be like freaking Luka Doncic or Magic Johnson with incredible passes. It's another thing to be just coughing the ball up and giving freaking Sam Merrill like layups and all this stuff. Like I feel like every game somebody's stealing the ball from Dame, and we're getting to like see like, oh, can this guy dunk? Because it's some random little guy who like never gets on the break. Like, yeah, exactly. I think Darius Garland and Merrill both had breakaways and did not dunk for whatever that's worth. So yeah, just I mean,
they got to clean it up.
Just the margins. They got so much stuff they got to clean up, and so yeah, I mean, look, at this point, just give me a lucky win where you make a bunch of threes and the other team misses everything. Like I don't care. Like
just need a win at this point.
I don't even need to see like them look like a reliably good team that can win a championship. Just beat the Jazz by 6 points at this point. Like I don't care. Like normally I'd be like, oh, yeah, I want you to look convincing against a terrible team.
Just get it.
Just win any way possible, because it's just you're just digging yourself such a hole. So
yeah.
Anyway, if that hasn't been sufficiently depressing, hopefully.
I mean, I think that's a good place to wrap up, though, because when you look at it, the Bucks are 1-6. Their next 6 games, you have the Jazz over like the next 2 weeks. So you get the Jazz on Thursday at home. Then you have back-to-back at the Knicks on Friday. You play the Celtics at home Sunday. You play the Raptors at home on Tuesday, an NBA Cup game. You play the Pistons at home on Wednesday, and then you play in Charlotte against the Hornets on Saturday. the Bucks go 4-2 or 5-1, I want to get crazy here over the next 6 games. Like, you give yourself a chance. You come out, you're 5-8 or 6-7, and you got some room to continue to build at that point. But that all starts with the game against the Jazz on Thursday. You can't look ahead. You got to go out there and you got to get that win. So we'll end it there.
What's your
Let us know
prediction, Camille?
for
What's
the
your
Jazz.
prediction in those games
They got
for the Bucks game for the
the
Bucks next
prediction.
6 games? Read
I
off the
feel like
schedule one more time.
I feel like the Bucks are close. So the next 6: Jazz at Knicks, Celtics, Raptors, Pistons at Hornets. I think they can go 4-2 over this stretch. 5-1 would be ideal, but I'm gonna just say 4-2 because I feel like they are close of starting to sustain something. They just have to figure out how to sustain that effort, the full 48 during the game. But the effort we've seen from them over the last 3 games, like it's looking well, not the last 3 because that Memphis game was one of them. The last 2 against Cleveland and that Celtics game, like you saw something building there. So that's where I would go. What would you say for the record over the next 6?
I feel like they don't deserve to be trusted to be any better than like 3-3 in that stretch, but let's be optimists. Let's say 4-2. It weirdly, if I say 4-2, I feel like one of those wins probably comes against either in New York or against the Celtics at home, and then they blow one of the other games that they
They're
that they
supposed to
should
win.
win, that they're supposed to win. But I don't know. We'll see. And again, if you could just get Khris Middleton playing even 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah,
like I
it
just think
helps.
that would unglue the offense to an extent that would be really
Yeah,
helpful, especially given how it feels like a lot of the offensive problem is just the fact that they just cannot like avoid these stretches of futility, right? We saw it unfortunately now it was in
mhm,
the fourth quarter, right, where they went like 3 or 4 minutes without a field goal, and
yep,
that pretty much is why they lost. Um, so yeah, let's get aboard the 4-2, right the ship train, and
yeah,
again, fingers crossed, Giannis, this adductor strain. Hopefully, the fact that he's questionable today means that he's close to returning. But again, like it's one of those things where like everybody loves saying in the preseason, like, oh, like I don't care if Giannis plays at all, like, or like all that matters is got to be right. Well,
then he doesn't play.
are you? Well, I was just saying, like, so the Bucks right now like look like a playing team. So you know, like you're gonna have to value regular season games to an extent because like right now you're dead last, and I know that they're a better team than that, but I again the Bucks are not. I mean, there's no point in a Bucks team that is a playing team. Like
Yeah,
they're screwed at that point, and we're just counting out the hours basically at that point. They need to get to a better place in the East
yeah,
if we're going to entertain them being relevant at all. And so yeah, you're going to actually have to prioritize winning games, and Giannis and especially Khris, like suck it up, buddy. Like time to feel good enough to play an NBA basketball game. So
yep, and that's
um,
gonna start on Thursday against the
yeah.
Jazz. They gotta start there. They gotta get that one against the Jazz. So well, make sure you guys keep it locked in on Locked On Bucks. Let us know in the comments as well what you think their record will be over their next 6 games. Really interested in hearing how you guys see this going for them. And as a reminder as well, make sure that you check out the Locked On Bucks daily newsletter. Head over to lockedondaily.com and start your day with the new free Locked On Bucks newsletter. So for Frank and myself, we'll catch you later. Enjoy, y'all.